Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with the story in which our OP protected his family from intolerable neighbors and got rid of them. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't mess with my family. So this started in the summer of 2018. My mom and grandmother are going through some rough times and lost the home they were staying at. And I don't have the means to house them, so they found a small place to stay for the time being until they got back on their feet. I stopped by one day and saw my mom crying on the bed. Come to find out, the neighbors, we'll call Jane and Jack, are trying to get my mom and 82-year-old grandmother evicted by telling the landlord a whole bunch of bullcrap, like their dog, a purebred pit bull, is barking, keeping their kids up at night, and a bunch more, but I'll spare all the details. This starts the evil plan/revenge. No one messes with my family, especially my grandmother. The revenge. On days I was off work, I would sit down the street and watch Jane and Jack's place. It didn't take long to notice that the car they had didn't have license plates on it, but they had a company work truck from the state that they would swap the plate off to drive the car they had. Next, I happened to notice their child had some marks on his body. The plan was finally ready to be put into action. I waited for a day that they were leaving in the illegal car and took pictures of them swapping the plates and driving away. After they drove off, I got the number off the truck that the company puts on to track the vehicle and called the company the truck was owned by, giving them the information of what was going on and that I had pictures of it happening and I could fax them over. The woman on the line was more than excited to send me over to their legal team to send them photos along with a statement of what was happening. After I got off the phone with the company, I called the state police to inform them of the same thing along with the vehicle description and illegal plate and the child abuse that was spotted. The state police called CPS, Child Protective Services, with the details, so I didn't have to. I'm not sure if they were caught that day driving that vehicle since I couldn't stay or keep going to the house each day all day, but my mom did inform me that their personal vehicle just disappeared one day and they kept taking a taxi everywhere they went. And multiple people in suits kept showing up asking for them until they got them when they were home. I'm guessing that was CPS. And the child was taken away for abuse. The company that owned the truck finally took action and Jane lost her job. This put a lot of stress on Jane and Jack, which caused them to get a divorce and lose their home. At the end of the day, I still feel happy they got their just desserts for messing with my family. And our second story. That time, the real estate agent evicted me. Background. I live in Australia and had been renting a unit for 6.5 years via a property management company. The lease was 12 months. At the end of each lease, I was offered the option of another year with a slight rent hike. I signed a contract each time. The unit did not allow pets, but I had 3 indoor-only cats. At each 3-month inspection, I left a note for the PM stating that I was cat-sitting and not to let the cats out as they were unfamiliar with the area. The company has a very rapid staff turnover, so this worked for 6.5 years. I knew I was in the wrong keeping cats and did expect to get in trouble eventually. I had loads of problems with the management over the years. On 3 occasions, they told me I was behind on my rent when I knew I wasn't. All 3 times, they had the wrong weekly rent amount in the system, charging me more than my contract and making me look like I was behind. It was fixed each time after lots of back and forth. I had several break-ins while I lived there, and they never wanted to change the keys, although I made them eventually. They were difficult with maintenance and generally treated me like I was beneath them. I always got attitude when I dealt with them. I'd been saving for a while and had just purchased a flat to live in, but it wouldn't technically transfer to me for another 2 weeks. The flat had a tenant, and even though I could terminate their lease on a 30-day notice, the previous owners had asked to either let the tenant remain or work with them on a move-out date. I had had a friendly conversation with the tenant, but we hadn't discussed the tenant moving just yet. It was my first owned place, so obviously I wanted to move in ASAP, but not only did I need the tenant to move, if I broke my lease, I had to pay re-advertising costs and pay rent, even if I didn't live there until a new tenant moved in. I plowed everything I had into buying the house, so the whole situation was tricky. The story. And then it happened. I came home, and after a routine inspection, I'd been issued a notice that offered me the option of removing the cats immediately and permanently, or go to rental tenancies tribunal, like renter's court, where the property management will ask for eviction. I panicked, but then remembered that I needed to break the lease anyway. I did a bit of research and found that if I'm evicted, I'm not liable for rent and re-advertising. Also, the property management did not know I'd bought a place. I spoke to the tenant, who was happy enough to move, and asked if they wanted to rent my old place. They did. I contacted the property management and asked if they would release me and my cats from the lease if I found someone to take it over. It would mean my cats were gone and they wouldn't miss a day of rent, but they wouldn't have it. By the tone, I knew they wanted to punish me. The compliance. I agreed to go to tribunal for eviction. I'm sure they weren't expecting that and thought that there was no way for me to talk my way out of an eviction. Tribunal date comes around and I'm very prepared with a folder of papers. The tenant in my new place has a solid move-out date for 3 weeks' time, so I can move after that. The whole thing was comical from the start. The judge, not really a judge, but close enough, asked the property manager how long I've lived there, and she says 1.5 years. The judge asks me to confirm, and I say 6.5 years. Property manager is scrambling through her records and can't find the details. After several minutes, I say I have them and pull them out of my folder. You can tell the judge is not impressed. We get to the cats, and I explain that I know I'm in the wrong. That is very comforting to have other beings in the house with all the break-ins and security issues. I explain that I've been able to secure other accommodation for myself and my cats, but need some time to move as I cannot move in yet. The judge seems quite sympathetic. The judge turns to the property manager and says, "You were here seeking eviction, correct?" The property manager says, "I don't have approval for that." "Well, that's what your official paperwork states. I can try to contact the owner now, but if I can't get them, we'll proceed as the paperwork states." The property manager is beet red and flustered, stammering that the owner is difficult to contact. The judge leaves to call them anyway. The property manager knows she effed up. She didn't expect me to be willing, and now she knows I'll be getting away without paying hundreds in fees. The judge comes back, unable to contact the owner. She explains the eviction to me and asks that my eviction date be after the date I can move into the new place. The judge orders it so. As the judge leaves the room, she looks at me and says, "No harm in a little cat." Property manager is purple. The property manager and I have to stay to sign the paperwork. I'm grinning and she refuses eye contact. I go out of my way to shake her hand and say, "Nice seeing you, Janet," as we leave. Honestly, it was such a beautiful moment. To add insult to injury, I was supposed to meet the property manager at the rental to hand over the keys once I'd moved. I left a card with a cat on it, key taped inside, thanking them for making things so easy. They did try and claim my bond for silly things like age cracks in the wall, but tenancies saw right through it and made them return it. And our last story. I want a job. Actually, I want your job. Happened many years ago. Was working front desk at a large company. Pretty entry-level job, but maybe not as easy as some may think. Anyway, handling calls and visitors was a large part of my job, and since it was a large company, it was not uncommon to have someone walk in and ask if we were hiring. Usually such people would bring their CV/resume, which I would pass to my manager as per policy, and that would pretty much be it. Well, not with this crazy lady. CB hereinafter. Since this was long ago, the dialogues here are probably not accurate word for word, but still describe the incident to my best knowledge. So one afternoon, CB walked in and flat out asked to see our HR. I asked her about her purpose of visit because it was clear she didn't have an appointment, and turned out she too was looking for a job here. I said, unfortunately, our HR rep wouldn't be able to meet her without an appointment, and that if she had her CV/resume, I would pass it to my manager. She handed over a business card and left. Now, a CV is one thing, but just leaving a business card most certainly wouldn't land you a job here, even if you were a senior manager at Apple or Microsoft. I proceeded according to policy and didn't give it much thought. The next week, she showed up again, this time complaining about how she hadn't heard from our HR and our company was missing out on talent with such inefficiency. I politely informed her that HR generally would respond within 2 weeks upon receipt of her application. She was miffed because I'd failed to tell her a CV/resume was necessary, but left anyway. I documented our conversation because I sort of smelled trouble. 2 weeks later, CB came again, just to say hi because she was confident she would be hired. But then she asked about my salary and benefits, etc., which I, of course, declined to disclose. She said, I think I can do better than you. Maybe I'll ask HR to swap our positions. Well, if you say so. She was nothing compared to the crazy customers I had back when I was working retail, so I was unaffected. But I reported her visit along with the previous one to my manager as her confidence or entitlement was a sign of trouble. The company once had a rejected applicant harass our employees and threatened to bomb our headquarters, so we took hints of trouble very seriously. My manager passed my report to HR and General Affairs, which was in charge of security. Another week went by, and one day CB basically stormed in ranting our HR rep was a B. Yep, she didn't even get an interview. Then, out of the blue, she asked when, not if, I was quitting or getting fired, because I was occupying the position she wanted. I basically told her to saw it off in the most professional manner possible. Before she left, she said, "Let me know when you quit or get fired." Of course, I reported her appearance to my manager. I wish I could say I never heard from or of CB again after that, but unfortunately, that was not the case. She didn't show up for a couple of weeks, and I was transferred to another position during this time. One morning, I got a call from the front desk. CB demanded to see me, and I could hear her screaming profanities in the phone. Turned out CB came and realized I was replaced, got furious because I hadn't done as she requested. She asked the new receptionist about me, and the newbie directly called me without checking her file or inquiring about purpose of visit. CB went batcrap crazy, realizing I got a better position in the company and favored another girl over her in taking over my previous job, as if I had any say in the hiring. Security threw her out. I never saw her again. But some coworker told me and was eventually banned personally and digitally. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.